Um, so we've all been itching to talk about this movie for like a week, so let's throw it to Alex and get us started with The Batman. Go ahead, Alex.
We're starting with the Batman?
We are starting with The Batman.
You're
Okay,
starting
let's go.
with the
Okay.
Batman. I definitely don't feel prepared for this.
He's a man, but he dresses as a bat.
Yes, that's
What?
true. So we got a new iteration of Batman brought to us by Matt Reeves. I believe he wrote and directed this, or co-wrote. I don't know. And kind of like Michael's saying, like this is he wasn't really saying this, but it's one of the first Batmans that we don't see an origin story really at all, which is kind of interesting. But he's not very far into it either. He's like 2 years, I believe, into the job, into his new career. Yeah, this was a lot slower. We start off with Batman and like, how does this movie begin? It's like he shows up to
Music video.
to the case, yeah, with Gordon, and they're investigating all that stuff, and then goes the path of the Riddler and trying to find him, and he's kind of doing the Riddler thing where it's just like he's there, but he's not. You know, he's elusive, but he's always present with his little cute notes to Batman and all that stuff. Anyway, so yeah, we got Robert Pattinson as the new Bat. We got Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. We got Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. And I feel like they're kind of the main people. This is already horrible. Oh my god. It's been too long.
Keep going, man. Keep going.
Anyway, so it just kind of keeps leading into things that kind of branch off into other things where it's like, well, was Bruce's dad? Because the Joker seems to be taking out all the people who are in power in the city that at least, I said the Joker, Jesus, the Riddler. The Riddler is taking out everyone in the city that are in power that he believes are corrupt. And it even reaches Thomas Wayne, and all this stuff comes out. And which leads, Bruce on a identity kind of crisis where he thinks that he's been doing this all the time to preserve, his family legacy in his own strange way. And then, anyway, and he comes in contact. Like I said, it's very slow. They focus a lot more on the detective stuff, which I thought was really cool. Like whenever he's like, spying on the Penguin and spying on Catwoman and just kind of, deducing before he interacts with them.
He could be creeping on Catwoman.
Yeah, he's very creepy on Catwoman. Anyway, and then Jesus, I hate this. I also you also chose someone who has like probably the worst memory for like just random facts to do like the longest movie we've watched on this podcast. Anyway, I'm just
cut. That was
yeah, that was long. That was very long. Jeez, how long? I don't even remember how long that was.
Was
like
it 4 hours?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Anyway, I'm just gonna go way down. So
just do it, man. Just do it.
We eventually get to where the Riddler
spoilers for everything.
Yeah, spoilers for everything. The Riddler eventually gets to the point where he's gonna hand himself in. We've seen this, with the Joker, all this kind of stuff, and that that's not the end of his plan. He's not like, I'm done. I did what I wanted. Take me in. Anyway, and then we get what is, I think that's what happens then, right? We get what I think is the best scene in the whole movie is whenever Batman and the Riddler are interacting back and forth. Which is there? Now that I think about it, was there anyone listening in this scene? Like, why?
Think so.
Why weren't they?
It showed a shot of the camera with the red light on it. So
yeah, it's true. It did show that.
Someone's recording it, but
I guess
maybe that's leading into something later on. But
and then Batman looks off to the side at like another room.
Yeah, and I guess that because I was thinking it felt more private, and it felt like he's worried because it really they do a good job, I think, of making it seem like that the Riddler knows that he is Bruce.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So, but then
he looked like a child that got in trouble.
He totally did. He was like not totally facing him, like to the side, and like. Anyway, and then it ends up coming out that he just thinks that Bruce is just, another one of the corrupt elites.
Here's the one that they missed.
Yeah, the one that they missed
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Um. Anyway, and then he discovers his real plan, which I thought was really cool. Because one of the cool that's one of the cool scenes because I feel like when the bombs started going off after he revealed like my plan's not over, and then the bombs start going off, I was like, great, whoop de doo, like we've seen this a million times. You're crazy. You're trying to have anarchy and all that kind of stuff. But what I really liked is that wasn't the reason. It wasn't just chaos. It wasn't just trying to do what Ra's al Ghul was in Batman Begins. He was trying to direct the water flow to bring everyone kind of in this one location and to just start, pecking off the mayor and all this kind of stuff, and I guess killing everyone else there. The Riddler's motivations I don't think are totally solid in my brain, because it's like at first I was talking to the people after we watched the movie. I was like, I thought that he just wanted to bring everyone in one location so that they could kill off the elites, the rest of the elites, and have it witnessed and all this kind of stuff. But they had like 17 people with like rifles. So it's like, why you don't need that many people to kill the mayor, So I'm just like, why would you want to kill just random people unless you had your target list? Anyway, doesn't matter.
I thought he was starting he's trying to inspire those people to start anarchy. Yeah.
It's also
kind of
like,
like Stained in My Hero. He's more of an ideal than
right.
than anything else.
it's also like I don't think he planned for all. Like he kind of put out the word because he knew he was going to be in prison. He couldn't do anything at the time. So it's like, hey, show up there, kill these people. He's like, whoever comes.
He doesn't
comes.
know if 5 people are going to come or 50. That's
it's just kind of like he's like, hey, get there and do the job.
Yeah.
And they're all crazy. And they're like, let's do it. And dress.
So yeah, up until that point, it was just him and Gordon kind of figuring all this out, and then it kind of all comes out there that's the full plan, and then that's whenever he kind of does a little bit more of what we've seen of Batman in the past, the more actiony type Batman stuff, where he's fighting off these Riddler impersonators, which is really cool that they all dressed like the Riddler. I thought that was awesome. Anyway, and then he just kind of saves the day or salvages, I should say. Salvages the day, and then they have a cleanup party afterwards. That's yeah, you know me. That's like probably one of the worst recaps ever done. But I'll let you guys fill it in and all that kind of stuff as we go. But I guess I'll jump into what I thought. I'm very mixed on this movie. Very, very mixed. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff, and I think there's a lot of really stupid stuff. I think all the detective stuff, like I thought beforehand, was awesome, and that's what's frustrating about this movie is because if it was just like that part you nailed, it's like why can't we get everything else right? And of course, that's right for what I think it should be, but I think this movie's too long. Not a ton too long because I like the length that really feels like you're in the case for a while. But I feel like they wasted time with like just slow moving stuff. Like Michael and I we were talking after the movie about how the opening shot, and I'll let him really go into depth because he has a lot of thoughts too, but about like everything is just so awkward and slow. Like, sure, I think the Batman, he walks in the room, he looks cool. We all know that. But like, he looks like he's like an undercover Batman. Like that it looks like he has Bruce Wayne tied up somewhere, and then he put on the suit and he's like trying to like be like, is this what Batman does?
Am I acting natural?
Act natural. Yeah, like it was so weird. He moves his head so slowly, and like this kind of goes what I was talking about. My worry about the movie is I was worried it might be a little style over substance. I don't think that's true really, but I think there are moments where that's true, where it's like, let's just make Batman look cool and ominous, and turning slowly. Ominous-ing. Batman musical.
I would love that.
Anyway, and it's just like so strange. Like we were talking about how that he's just in that crime scene at the beginning, just awkwardly standing in the middle of all these cops. and like, you know, he totally looks like he doesn't know where to be. And there's that one cop that's like, excuse me, or whatever. And it's just, oh geez, so dumb. Anyway, there's way too much to this movie for me to even think about what to say. It's like, and I feel like I right after we watched it, I had it all in my mind, and now it's kind of gone. I'm just gonna throw it to someone. I'm gonna jump in a lot. Yeah, it's just gonna be a potluck. We're just gonna be, you know, bringing stuff left.
Nice.
So I'm gonna throw it to, maybe I'll throw it to Michael, because I know that we're very, very of similar minds.
Alrighty. We'll say this first. I liked the movie. I think it was a good movie. And I'll also say this. I don't think I've ever gone in a movie more critical than I was going into this movie. Because the movie, I wanted to be super, super good. I was like, I want this done right. I want this to live up to the hype. I want it so like every scene I was super critiquing, super critical and everything. It's 1,000% too long. There are so many shots that need to be trimmed down. So many. I walked out and I told this to Jonah, because I was like, Jonah, where are you at? And he gave me a thumbs up. I was like, okay. Because I was like, I do like it, but I'm very curious. And I was like, I told him this. I was like, it is the most bizarre movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yes,
1,000%.
I told Ben as soon as the movie was over, like he looked at me and I was like, that is one of the strangest movies I've seen in my entire life.
It's not like it had bad pacing, in my opinion. It was just so different. Like I liked how it, like, even Alex and I said this. I was like, that felt long, but I didn't care. Like, yeah. I didn't mind the length. I hated the wasted time. Like, when I say wasted time, I mean, like, it was one of the most dramatic movies as well as I've ever seen in my life. Like, every time, I told them this afterwards, every time Batman was surprised or something, I think it was a little too loud. Every time he was surprised, or it was like, hey, you need to look like you just realized something or something. It was always the same side profile shot, and then always he'd look up sideways and go, and then his eyes would go big. Like, there was only one time whenever, like, the Joker, actually, he realized, not Joker, good Lord, I actually got me the Joker.
Riddler.
When the Riddler, he realized it wasn't, when he said Bruce is the one that got away, and he like actually looked surprised genuinely. It wasn't this scripted, like, by the book look of drama, is what a lot of, like, at least 5 times we got that in the movie. And I was like, so strange. And so many scenes that are so prolonged that didn't need to be. The walk into that crime scene, dude. The trailer is the only shot they needed. The only shot they needed was him walking behind Gordon through everyone watching. You get the whole story. They just overtell it. They're like, Batman shouldn't be here. Batman shouldn't be here. Like, we got that from him walking in there. It was so much more impactful, I feel like, just in the trailer. But, like, it was the longest pass through. And then Alex talking about, and I'll talk about good things too, I promise. But, like, Alex talking about him being in that room, that killed me. Like, that's the thing. They didn't get Batman. I liked Robert Pattinson. I liked his psyche. I liked how he's like, I don't know who Bruce Wayne is. He's not here. Like, I am, my life is devoted to being at, like, I love how he puts on the shades because the sun, like, hurts him because he's not used to it. He's so out of touch with daylight and everything. I like that whole aspect. But, like, actual Batman, like, Batman in all the cartoons that I've seen and everything, he's always in the corner. He's out of the way. He's observing things from the shadows. But the guy saying, excuse me, I was like, oh, God, it hurt me. I was like, what is no, Batman's not in the way. Batman is just, like, unnoticed. He's a part of the wall. Like, you're terrified of him because he's in the darkness. He's not standing in your way of doing the job. I don't know. And there were so many weird, awkward walking shots. Yes, Thomas.
So when you talk about, like, when he's in the way, when he was doing that, it felt like you were in the Arkham Knight video games, and, like, the characters had, like, preset, like patterns, and you're just, like, walking in the middle of them by accident and getting in the way and getting, like, stuck in the character models. You're just like, you can't move. You're just like, okay, just back up a little bit. Okay, go to the left. Okay, I'm out. Okay, now they can continue with the scene.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and like I said,
like, he was just, like, wandering around the room. I'm just like,
all that stuff he could have seen from his point of view. There was no need to go walk and stand and look at the body like this. Like, there's just so.
I'm so sorry. It's because they're doing, like, cool things of, like, where he, like, points out the guy's thumb missing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm like, that's cool. That's really cool. But why can't he do that? Like, why can't, like, Gordon be the first one on the scene or something, and then Batman meets him there, or maybe he goes investigates after they're gone or something. I just don't understand why he has to be in the middle of all these cops. Like, it's not Batman to me. Anyway,
I feel like they just made Batman awkward when it came to these things. Like, that, and then I brought this up to them. There's 3 times whenever Batman walks out of the shadows trying to be intimidating. The first is whenever the guys are beating up the clown faces or beating up the dude in the subway, and he has the thumping walk. I'm like, okay, I get what you're going for there. You're bringing this intimidation because these people are like, well, at first it took me a second to catch on there because it was Halloween, and I'm like, why aren't they freaking out? They're like, oh, that's actually him, and that's when they said that. I was like, oh, they thought it was Halloween, just some dude in a costume. They're like, what are you doing? But I liked that. I was okay with that one, and then they do it again whenever there's a guy on the phone in the Riddler one, and he stomps out of the corner. It's like, you don't need the stomping. Like, Batman's quiet.
I like how it sounds like there's spurs too.
Yeah,
like cowboy.
You want a tussle, friend? I don't know, but and there's another time I can't remember exactly what it is, but this movie's just so dramatic in that sense.
I think it's that hallway scene where they're like shooting him. He's just taking the bullets.
I don't mind that because that looks cool, but
does,
it's not realistic because Batman doesn't run until that last fight on the rafters. He literally walks through every fight. He does not run once. I was like, where is your hustle, sir? But anyway, but there's just so much they over dramatize, and then like one of the biggest ones that kills me is the scene whenever he walks out of the fire in the car. So the scene's broken out to where Penguin's upside down. He looks over and it shows Batman get out of the car, and he starts walking slowly and the fire's going. Then it cuts to what it should have been the first shot is Penguin, and then Batman's foot steps in the camera and he starts walking toward it. That should have been the first shot, and then they can show him walking from the fire. Would have been way less cheesy, way more impactful. And then Alex and I both were like, whenever he leans in front of the car to look down at Penguin, I almost rolled my eyes. I was like, a much cooler shot would have been like behind the car, show the silhouette of Penguin's head, and then Batman just drops into view, rather than him just be like, hello down there. It's just like,
well, it's not even the awkward thing. It's not even the awkwardness of a guy in a bat suit trying to bend down to look into a low point. It's the fact that it literally, again, they focus on it for way too long, where it looks like, oh, he's down as far as he's going to go. Oh, he keeps going. It's almost like you can hear the director being like, hey, Robert, just a little lower, please. Just a little, we need you a little bit more in frame, just a little further, just keep going. And he's like, this hurts. Like, this suit's uncomfortable. And that's what that whole shot looks like. It's like, it takes him so long.
Yeah, so those are my main things of what they did with the Batman that I didn't like, is how they just presented him. Because like I said, I liked his psychopath. I liked him being crazy. I liked his like interaction with the people. I love the interaction with Riddler. Like Alex said, that was so good. And just like how well he played that, I thought it was awesome. And just like his suit, especially in that scene, just looked how slim he is instead of like, a big hulking man, but he just felt agile, and I don't know, that scene looked cool. But and then the last thing I'm gonna complain about the Batman himself is I hated the last scene, not the last fight scene, but the last scene where he is the hero of the city. It was pure like if this was, I told this to Ari, I think on the way home, and I think I said it at the thing. If this was Dark Knight Rises, if this was the end of Matt Reeves' trilogy, that's fine. This is the end of your story. Batman is now, he is the hero of the city. He's become one with Gotham. He's on their side. People look to Batman as a hero. And I was like, what are they going to do with the next one? He's going to be cutting ribbons and like, here's the museum. Here's the keys to the city. Batman's now the parade.
He's going to have Robin on the next one. What do you...
So I was like, how do you plan to go forward with Batman like this? Batman is supposed to be, people don't trust Batman. He's a vigilante. They're like, is this guy okay or not? Like, there's no, like, it just felt like they made him Superman in this movie. And I don't, and like, you can see where they easily, but it's such a cliche to take a second movie and make the hero the villain. And that's probably what they're going to do. And I really don't want them to do that because we've seen it 1,000 times. But it's like, that's probably like something's going to happen. He's going to be framed or something, or someone's going to hurt him. Oh, we loved you. Oh, throw crap at him. I don't know. That scene I hated that scene.
He does that look again, doesn't he? That side look when he's like looking up to the helicopter.
What are you gonna say, Jared?
I felt the same way, but because they already like greenlit like 2 more movies for this guy. If he uses this as like the highest point before the fall for Batman, like this is like the city loves him, he's a hero. If he uses the next movie to make the fall for him, like where the city doesn't trust him and they actually like hunt him down after, that will be good.
Well, that's what I expect. Like it's like Man of Steel. Man of Steel went into
you got to build him up first.
He's a bad guy, but I'm saying like we've seen that multiple times before. I'm like, do we really want to go in that direction with it? But I don't
It's
know.
basically the end of the Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Is the
Yeah.
it's like,
money.
no, he can't be the hero we need, or he's the hero we need, not the hero, whatever.
Doesn't Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 2
Yeah.
do that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those
Yeah.
those are the things that really really drove me nuts about this movie. The way it needs an editor. I say that about a lot of movies. A lot of movies need an editor. I feel like there's a great version of this movie in there. Like I've said, so it's a good movie, but there's a great version in there. But it's such a dramatic movie. Oh, we got to bring another shot into this movie that killed me in the theater. I thought I missed something because I was like, was I distracted? So whenever they go to Penguins, which firstly, this whole scene was done poorly. When they go to confront Penguin for the second time, and Catwoman's in there, and she opens up the thing, and Batman, appears next to her, next to the truck, and then. Firstly, this whole scene should have been done in a warehouse, and there should have been on rafters, and Penguin should have been looking over, and Batman should have been swooping in from the shadows. Would have been so cool. Absolutely wasted opportunity.
Falcone and Begins, that whole scene.
Yes, and then Penguin should have been running, and then they get in the whole car chase. Would have been so cool. Instead, they're sitting there looking in the back of the trunk. They start shooting. The shots are everywhere. It shows Batman on the ground. You think he's shot, hurt, or dead, and then it cuts to where he's just somehow magically in a car 50 yards away, revving up his engine. You're like, where was the connection? Like, there was no need to show him on the ground. I did not understand. That makes zero sense for the car to be next to the building they're all doing their drug deals at. How'd he get it there and why? Anyway, and then to have him like that scene, like I asked them afterwards, like, did I miss something? Did I blink? Was there a shot of him swooping away? No, he's just on the ground. Then he's in the car. I was like, that scene has no cohesion. I don't know. It was nonsensical to me. But
before we move on, you talking about that just makes me really want like an SNL skit of like the 2 ways that he got that car there, where it's like it just shows them inside the warehouse, and then they hear like, and then he like pulls it up, and they're like, whose car is that? And then the other way that they get it, the other way that he gets it there is that he's got it in neutral. And he's like,
oh my god, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of style over substance to me, where it's like, oh, let's get him in the car, and then let's have him enter the scene in his car as slow as he enters the scene in every other scene. He just revs it for like an hour, and then he waits for them. He's like, you can go ahead start,
I'm honestly fine with that if it made sense. Like if he was in there, if like I said, the whole scene played out in the warehouse, not outside of it. He doesn't get shot and crawl away. He's in there, and then Penguin's the only one that gets out, and then Penguin thinks he's like I don't know, trying to start his car or something, like the classic Batman thing. They're trying to start the car, and then you just have the lights going, and vroom, finally gets it and goes, and they chase scene. But I don't know. That whole scene was so.
That scene was terrible.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it was off. But the car was dope though.
Yeah,
I did like that because I don't even like the new Batmobile, but that. When it shows up and when they introduce it, that was really cool. And he's just revving it up.
Yeah. But I just feel like that's what I like about Nolan's movies is that at least the first 2, in my opinion, where it's like it's not like Batman is showing off or anything. He's just like, he's doing what he needs to do. Like that whole scene with Falcone, where it's like he's sneaking around, instilling the fear that I feel like this movie talks about in the opening monologue, which I really like the opening monologue.
I love the opening
where
monologue.
He's like, they're talking about like, I'm in those shadows, all that kind of stuff. And that's so cool. And then that's what these like slow motion walk out of the shadows, like get rid of that anymore. It's like, yeah, you're in the shadows, but now you're out of it. It's like, no, the fear is, I don't know where you are and all that kind of stuff. And even him revving up his car, like, I'm just like, what? This just, one of the biggest problems I have with this movie is it feels like fan service in not the best way, where it's like, it feels like the director is constantly winking at the audience. One of the examples is that I thought it was funny and I liked it when I first saw it. And the more I think about it, the more I don't like it. And it's that Penguin scene where he's handcuffed and he waddles like a penguin. I did the whole like, that's funny. He's a
I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
Oh, so when Gordon and him are interrogating him, and then they leave, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna leave me here like this?" And he starts waddling after him, and he waddles like a penguin.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, he totally did that.
Like instantly, I was like, "Oh, that's clever." And then the more I think about it, I'm just like, you're breaking the fourth wall for me so much in this movie, where it's again like that car scene. It's like, is Batman like trying to show off his hot rod now? I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why not?
Catwoman's there, so he's got to kind of show off.
That's true. That's true. And it works out because they have the whole like,
can
you feel the love tonight car ride together at the bike ride at the end of the movie. Gotta hate that scene. Like Michael and I both thought the same thing in that scene where it's like, I feel like, yeah, that song should have started playing.
Nala and Simba running down the road right now.
The love tonight. And they're like, getting a little ahead of each other, like
teasing,
non-verbally flirting, like stupid. God.
Oh, but
go
ahead.
Go on. I just the whole winking at the audience thing. I feel like that's where I feel like Nolan was a master, at least at the first two movies, where he's like, I'm making a story that feels grounded, real, and awesome. And this one is just like, I'm making a story that's really cool. And let me throw in these Easter eggs and let me wink at the audience. And like, I hate that. Anyway.
You mean? But I think that's most stuff that bothered me about this movie is just how they portrayed everything and shot everything, and not shot everything, but these things we've been talking about. But then the other thing, I don't know if I think it's funny or bad, but the whole smacking into a bridge whenever he's squirrel suiting was a little much because you think you'd be dead because he hit the bridge going like probably 40, 50 miles an hour and then flipped onto a truck.
The bridge, right?
What he hit? I thought
he hit the parachute, caught the bridge. He flipped onto a truck or something.
Yeah, he flipped on a truck, then hit the ground.
He hit the bus and then he hit the bridge and then he like bam and bammed
did
onto
something.
The street.
Yeah, he smacked around a bunch of things. Anyway, he'd be broken. But that scene was a little. I liked the fact that it's like I was thinking after, I was like, this is like the more grounded than even the Dark Knight, because he's like a squirrel, so he didn't have like some stiffening cape or anything like that.
I hated that scene.
You hated it?
It's just because the like first person view it goes into where you like see his head and it's like, what the heck is this amazing Spider-Man? What the heck are they doing?
But I didn't mind that it was like a little different because he is only in year 2, so maybe we'll get something cool later on. But it was a little silly of how it ended with him just like Spider-Manning in between the two buildings and walking off saying his back hurts. But the things I liked about this movie, like obviously the detective stuff, I thought that was really, really cool, and how it all felt like very noirish and building, and the characters, like talk about the Penguin and the Riddler. Like I don't think they could have got better people to play these two guys in this movie. Like they were so you guys know. Colin Farrell's, I've never really cared for him. Like I've always found him kind of bland and straightforward, but like I was like, you're like unrecognizable in this. Like it's, I mean, apart from the makeup, obviously, but like even just like acting wise, like I've always seen him as kind of like dry one tone, and I don't really believe when I look at him whenever like I feel like he's reading the lines when he's saying them. And I haven't seen all of his movies. I'm just saying like the ones that I've seen, but in this, I was like, he just kind of embodied the character. He did such a good job, but and then the Riddler dude, of course, Paul. What's his name? Paul
Dano.
Dano. He's, I mean, I don't know. He did such a good job and such an odd but fitting delivery with all of his lines. Like whenever he's screaming and he kind of build everything with his voice, and you're like, it's like it's not right. And you're like, whoa, this guy is loony. But I love the whole build of the case in this movie. It was so well done. I had a few other things I was going to mention that I really, really liked about it, but I did like the opening monologue a lot of how it just kind of like talked about the fear of Batman and what he is, and like it was more of like an idea because he isn't really, because it is so early on. No one really knows like, hey, what is the deal with this guy? And he's just talking about, I don't know, it's really cool. But goodness me, I had something I was going to talk about that I really, really liked, but I'll throw it around. We'll go in a circle and I'll just chime in later. Jared, I've talked long enough. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna be far more light on this movie than those two. I think The Dark Knight is still my favorite Batman movie, and then this one. I think this is the most Batman we've gotten so far. I love this Batman. I'll talk about the things I didn't like first. I didn't like that last scene either, where he's like leading everyone out of the rubble and stuff. I was like, man, it's a little much. Calm down. I don't think Batman would do that. I don't even think Batman would like help afterwards with like the helicopters and stuff. I think he would leave and then Bruce Wayne would come and kind of help. I didn't like. Oh god, dude, the freaking squirrel suit scene when the was right in his face. I was like, Jonah, I can't take this.
It was bad. That's like Batman '89 stuff right there. I don't know.
That's funny. I don't even remember the shots you're talking about.
I'd rather have like a far out scene where you just see him fall off the building and on the ground. That would have been a lot better.
Ow!
But I hated that. And then like another thing, yeah. I don't hate it. I like it. It shouldn't have been in this movie. All the Penguin stuff, or so much focus on the Penguin. It's like what I thought from the trailers. You didn't need like 3 bad guys. Or 3 main characters like from the comics. If it was just the Riddler and maybe Catwoman, I thought it'd been a lot better. And maybe just like hints at the Penguin, not him so focused on in this movie.
Yeah, he played a much bigger part than I thought he was going to.
Yeah. But I did like his Iceberg Lounge or whatever it's called. We'll come back to that with the things that I liked. And there was one other thing I didn't like. I think his emo brooding was a little much at sometimes. I think he needed to lighten up a little bit more. Because he does. Every Batman does realize like he needs to keep up his appearances with the city and stuff like that, and he just did not give a crap in this one. But it's still early in his career, so I forgive it a little bit.
I think that sorry, real quick. I think that if he didn't lighten up, I'd almost want his mental state to be worse.
Like,
that's what I
where people around him are like afraid to like or like concerned for him.
Right. Yeah. Like Alfred and all that kind of stuff. I one thing I forgot to say is I was worried about Bruce in this movie before the movie, and I actually think that he did a really good job. I liked his Bruce a lot. I do wish that he had more of a mental thing, because one of the things I liked is like how that he would have the makeup dripping from like his sweat. It's like that's such a silly, cheesy, emo like look, except for the fact that it's actually kind of grounded in the fact that he wore that and it would be dripping from all his sweat and stuff. And it was a cool way to show him out of the suit, still like laboring under his mental strain of that identity of Batman. So I really liked that. That was cool.
But in this movie, it was teetering on like too much. Like you thought like
I agree.
My Chemical Romance was about to play when he was like looking at stuff. That being said, I do really like this movie. I think it's like, for me, one of like my second favorite Batman movie. I'm sorry if there's noise. There's people like blaring music outside my window. The things that I love. Okay, first off, I love the feel of the beginning, the noir. He's talking about the case. He's talking about. It's very like Scott Snyder opening of a comic. He's just like narrating what's going on, and you're seeing what's happening in the city and stuff like that. I loved it. Another thing I liked about, let's go back to the Iceberg Lounge. Like, I love Batman Beyond. That's like my favorite Batman of all time. It's cheesy. It's like super early 2000s, late night, or like 1999. But something about Batman fighting in like a rave type setting or like a club, I love that. That's my jam. I love that so much. And I got that, and I was like, oh, sweet.
I knew as soon as I saw like the cage dancers, I was like, Jared's gonna love.
Another thing that there's so much potential from this movie, or that can happen from this movie. And the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, man, he really wants to drop some like talent stuff in here. I feel like he's gonna drop some talent like references or something about the Court of Owls, or there's another like secret faction of Gotham that Bruce doesn't know about, and he's gonna find out little snippets of. And I'm like, dude, he is so close. The whole time I was like, this is it. This is what he's gonna throw it out there, and he didn't. But I feel like he wants to.
Yeah, both him. The director and Pattinson wants to do Court of Owls, so
yes,
hopefully they do that.
If they do, man, that's the new that will be my favorite Batman movie. I don't even care if it's bad. But no, like you guys, just you guys know I love Detective Batman. I don't like action Batman. I don't like oh, he just beat the crap out of the guy. I love smart Batman. This one, he was a detective, but he still wasn't at the level where like I know it's not realistic, but like in the like the Justice League, he's almost all knowing sometimes. And you're like, there's no way. And that's the Batman I love. But I did like the detective side. I love Jeffrey Wright as Gordon.
Yeah,
I think that's my favorite Gordon. That was my favorite Gordon.
Yeah, me too.
He actually reminded me of the animated Batman.
That's what I thought.
Gordon. But I love their dynamic.
I will say I'm sorry. Before we move on from him, like, I told Ben, I was like, Pattinson. I love Jeffrey Wright Gordon. He's probably my favorite Gordon too, actually.
Yeah.
But him and Pattinson's lines, I don't know if it was the writing, but a lot of the lines, or if it was the delivery. But it was like, well, all of Jeffrey Wright's lines, pretty much throughout the entire movie, felt like he was playing the role of Captain Obvious. Where it's like, it's like he'd be like, Batman's reading a note from the Riddler, and he's like, saying something like, "It's a riddle," and then Batman's reading all of it, and then Jeffrey Wright would start to read the riddle, and it was just like everything felt like he had no idea what was going on, and that everything was like a revelation to him. I thought that him and I don't know if it was a style choice, but I felt like a lot of his lines and Pattinson's lines were like almost satire. And I was like, I was cracking up at half of their lines.
The one that got me was like, oh yeah, it's a rat with wings. Do you know what's another name for a rat with wings? A bat.
Yeah. And then he's like, a falcon can fly too, or whatever. Anyway, Jared, sorry.
I think this. One more thing. I actually liked Zoe Kravitz's
me too.
Catwoman. I really liked her Catwoman. Okay, this is the part of the show where I will defend this movie against Michael and Alex. So the crime scene, and this is me wishfully thinking because I really like this Batman. So I hope it's intended this way. So the crime scene, he's very awkward. It is still like his third year or second year as Batman, so he's still new at it. He's still trying to figure things out with the dynamic between Batman and the cops, I feel. And because I think he's just trying to figure things out he's trying to figure things out, and he just wants to figure out the case. He's not worried about like everything else around him. So, he's getting in the way. He's not thinking about, I should not be in the way. I'm just an observer. I'm not here to like fingerprint stuff or whatever. But it's very awkward. But I do like, it's very like Simon Pegg and Hot Fuzz. He's helping the cops, like he's like directing them towards clues. Yeah. He's like, look over there, you idiot.
You do know that window was broken from the inside, right? What?
So I kind of like that. He's like kind of helping them towards the clues, not him just being like, oh, it's this. But making the cops like helping them out. And I could be it could be wishful thinking, and it's totally just awkward, and he didn't even think of that. But
I'd say that I was thinking
he's
this
Dora the Explorer.
I was thinking this whenever Alex was talking about Pattinson and everything. And I feel like one thing I really liked about him is that he's a very confident Batman. Like how he goes into situations and everything. Like he doesn't care. He's like, I'm gonna go in like just trying to like it was the Iceberg Lounge. Whenever he's like, I'm going to Penguin and I'm gonna go through whoever's in my way. Like he's like, I don't care. I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna do this. So I kind of like, if you think of it in that aspect, I like that kind of arrogance of him going in the crime scene and not caring about any like. He's like, I'm here and I'm gonna do my job because you guys suck. Because I'm better than everyone else, and this is who I am. I like that kind of twist on it. So if they do kind of like have him growing as he like, I guess to take that back a little bit, and it is more how that scene is shot rather than how him being there.
Yeah.
The line of him saying "excuse me" is a little silly, but they do kind of bring it together at the end because they have that cop that's like, what is he doing here? This guy, blah 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 blah, and then they end up working together in the end, and they kind of like builds that little rapport and relationship with them whenever he's figuring out that puzzle in that room. So I kind of like that idea of him building this relationship, like you're kind of saying, with the cops and everything, growing as Batman. I like that.
And I do think this is just him trying to grow because like he's still in that like phase of like I don't care what happens, I'm upset, I'm just tormented. I like how like because that thing happens to Alfred, and he's like he actually feels like I can lose somebody. Like he has stuff to lose, and he still needs to think about that. So he's still growing as a Batman. And especially like out in the city when he's like doing a stupid walk towards people, I feel like he's still trying to get used to being Batman. Yeah. But I feel like this is a Batman of like really like limitless potential. He's not like the Batman. He's not like in the comics. They always jump to him like 20 plus years in the game, and he just knows everything. He knows how to act. He knows how to carry himself as Batman. And I feel like this movie is just very much him learning.
Puberty Batman.
Yes. Teenage emo Batman. There's not much that I have right off the top of my head. Like you guys, I'll probably jump in with Joseph and Thomas. I'm gonna throw it to Thomas.
Hey.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought of a better
just jump in on my turn. Whatever, it's okay. Fine.
Yeah, okay. I thought of a better opening for me, Joe. So you failed. You could have been like, and our co-host Jared, who draws little red pandas in his coffee. That's much better opening.
I didn't even think about that.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. So I've had some time to like process this one, and so I think I'm a little further down now from the high that I was seeing it from the IMAX perspective. I did like this movie. I did like a lot of the style in this movie. The story wasn't my favorite. Just okay, and I think we've all said at this point, this movie was way too long. Like, I'm sorry. There's no reason why this movie should have been 3 hours without it being like the conclusion, I think, would be like the thing to do. Paul Dano was fantastic, but he's always fantastic in pretty much everything he is in. So as much as I liked him in this, I can't really give him too much credit for like the whole movie because he's just good and no matter what he is. In fact, he's in one of the movies on my watch list and he was great in it. Doesn't matter that the movie was fantastic, but he was also really good in it. So, I like Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I thought she did a really good job playing like, a confident person who doesn't really know what she's doing quite yet. She's just trying to, because like she just wants to survive. That's her main goal in Gotham is to survive, and that's the only way that like her. Wow, Jared just blocked us out. Okay, bye, Jared. I see like her goal of surviving throughout the entire movie, and it works. Alfred was kind of weird because he was barely in this movie, like at all. I think they should have probably used him a bit more because the whole plot line of like where the Waynes truly corrupt in all this, and the fact that Alfred has been with the Waynes for forever. I think he should have had more to weigh in on that. Maybe, because like the whole thing about like Batman saying like, "Oh, you betrayed me, Alfred," in that one scene, and then like in that one scene, he's immediately forgiven afterwards. There was like no like time to process it, and he kind of thought, from what I thought, he looked at Alfred like he was kind of annoying him. Like, oh, the accountants are coming today. I don't have time for that. I'm Batman. It's like, who has a time for bookkeeping? I don't know. Like, I have some. I liked Pattinson in the bat suit. I thought it was a really good design. I like the practicality. I like utilitarian Batman. I've always been a fan of like the functional Batman, like the armor plating and I love the boots. The boots are cool. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know people like it's like, why is he wearing hiking boots? I'm like, oh, I know. When you work, hiking boots are great.
I do like when Batman seems poor. I know he's not, but I like when he seems poor.
Not just poor, but functional. Like what works? Like, oh, armor plate. Yeah, that works. Armor plating works. It's not maybe the most stealthy thing, but you know what? When I'm just walking up to somebody and they're shooting at me, screw you. I got armor.
Yeah, it's like I would say that this is my favorite bat suit. Easy. Yeah. Like easy. And it's kind of like you're talking to Thomas, because like even in the Arkham games, especially Arkham Knight, his suit's awesome because it's practical. I don't know about the weight. The weight might not be practical. It's huge all over. But I don't know. There's something definitely even about Nolan's Batman where it's something definitely kind of cheesy about that, like that very like Party City looking look to it, where it's like, it's all one piece, like looks like, it couldn't stop a butter knife kind of thing. But this suit looks like, it was compiled together with each piece having its purpose. I liked how even his chest piece was a active, batarang kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, okay, we'll get to that in a second about the batarang, because I did like the fact that the batarang was here instead of on his utility belt for now, because it's like this is like his like prototype suit basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
it. But like in when Pattinson was in the bat suit, I liked it. I didn't like his Bruce all that much, mostly because he was way too emo. I'm sorry, the haircut itself was just like. No.
Yeah, I will say I didn't like the hair. Didn't like the hair.
Yeah. That was too much. I was like, okay. And yeah, I know like the whole mascara thing, the crying thing is kind of interesting, but I've seen way too many like horny women react to that right now, and it's just like this is not how this is supposed to. It's just on the forums, like on Letterboxd. Like I swear to God, like here I have one right here pulled up actually. I love how effing disgusting Bruce looks in this nasty ass, stringy ass, translucently pairing goth boy in his dank, disgusting bat cave. That's what people are saying about this, and I do not like it.
I wish they were saying that about me.
Well, you're not dark enough complected to be a goth boy right now. You need to like dye your hair. Get some.
I can make it work.
Eyeshadow. Yeah, I think you can make it work. You gotta put in some effort, but you gotta make it work.
A ginger goth.
Ginger goth boy. I don't really know about like the last part, and okay, I like how he approached, I think, was it Michael? It was about the arrogance of him like walking into places.
Yeah, he's like overconfident almost.
Well, I like that. That's how he like did his fighting style. Was and I loved in the Iceberg Lounge where it was illuminated by the gunshots and it was like bouncing off his armor. That's probably my favorite fight scene in the whole movie. But I'm not really a gun nut. I just know a little bit about guns. And I told Michael this on the evening that we went to go eat after we saw this movie. It's like he's taking these massive rifle rounds, like the bullets are like this big. They're like 30 caliber bullets. And he's just like shrugging them off like they're nothing. Yeah. And then he gets one shotgun blast to the chest. He's like, oh no, I can't move. I'm like, really? That's the one thing, the buckshot that can't go through anything? Whatever. But I did like that they had that approach. What the hell is that?
Someone's jamming around Jared.
Is that the party people, Jared?
Yeah, I already warned about that, Thomas. Keep going.
You have been warned.
I didn't hear any of that. So But I did like the fight scenes where he just shrugged off the bullets because he wasn't worried about it, and what Michael was talking about was that arrogance of it. It's really cool.
Is it arrogance or stupidity? Your jaw is still.
I said
totally
overconfidence
open.
is what I said. He's very, very extremely confident, but I feel like that's going to come back to bite him eventually. But.
Yeah, I don't know. This just, and I think I told Michael, or sorry, not Mike. Yeah, it was Michael. The Batarang. Okay, so when he like at the very end where he like swoops in and like chops that electrical
I forgot to bring that up.
conduit thing. I was like, okay, one, that thing's probably still active and it's dropping into the water, which means everybody's dead. Two, he just chopped through that, and I'm sorry, he's surrounded by metal. I'm sure that what do you call it? That Batarang's non-electrical conducive. So he's dead, and then you have this live wire still swinging around. And then I was just thinking, like, he has a Batarang and he hasn't thrown it yet. I was like, oh, he's gonna throw it. No, he climbs up and he cuts it like a knife. I was like, he had a chance to throw it like an actual Batarang, and he never does it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, my biggest problem.
And he also just like drops into the water. I'm like, he's dead. And then
the audience I was with was like, oh, he's dead.
That's my biggest problem with that scene is, I forgot to bring this one up, is the fact of how it's so, like Alex was saying, style over substance. It's so dramatic, but there's no payoff to that whatsoever. There's no consequence for what just happened. He just drops, gets up, and then goes and lets a lady out of a cage thing that she's blocked in. Like it was so overplayed. Like there's a slow motion jump. He goes up and he cuts. I'm like, sure, if you want to play with fanciful things, say he had rubber gloves on and he cut the thing straight through one thing without having any issues and he fell in the water. Fine, but have some consequence for this extremely played up moment of him leaping off the thing. And I do want to play off one more thing you just said, because I said he might pay for his overconfidence later on. And I feel like he did actually in this movie, which I meant to bring up earlier that I really, really, really loved, is how the fact that we already talked about the original Riddler scene, but how the fact that he was almost so self-absorbed that he went in one of my favorite lines whenever the Riddler's like, "Oh, you're not as smart as I thought you were." Like you missed it, because Batman was so self-absorbed, so terrified that they had figured out who he was, that he completely blocked out any idea of any other conclusion and just went in just self-absorbed with fear, because I don't know, he felt like it was all about him or something like that. And I love that. It's like kind of bit him in the butt there, because he was so overconfident in what he's like, I'm right, this is what's happening. Da, da, da. But that could be play on that. But I like that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I do like that scene between him and Dano too, or sorry, the Riddler. Like that was a great scene. I do like how like his shouting always led into like the next line. I'm like, that's a pretty cool way to use that. And yeah, I was laughing for a whole other reason for the bike scene at the end, which should not have been in there. I'm sorry, that was stupid. But the only reason I was laughing is because I saw a clip of like behind the scenes of them riding, and like the stunt actor who plays Batman just busted ass on that bike. Like it wasn't just like a little, no, it was like he just like slammed down because it was raining and he turned too quickly.
That's hilarious, Thomas. Man, someone almost dying.
Stuntman died.
Hilarious.
No one did. Don't be so sensitive. Don't be emo Bruce. Come on.
Emo Bruce probably pushed him.
I was laughing.
That's probably true. Oh yeah, and does he only listen to that one Nirvana song? Is that the only thing he listens to?
Yeah.
Why is there any need not to, man? That song's awesome.
It is a cool song, yeah.
I didn't know how I felt about it being actually in the movie, but
twice?
Twice was too much. Yeah. And even the first time, they kind of played it too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, twice was
I feel like if it was just instrumental, that would have been, but
oh well. Yes. Yeah, I feel like source music, I'll get to that later. I'm sorry, Thomas.
Dude, even his like media player was like emo. Like that like box that he had, it was like, I don't know, it was like retro and angry looking. But that's just me. I was like, couldn't just had an iPod? Whatever. All right, Joseph, let's do this. Right.
So I had the opposite reaction to Uncharted the last time we podcast, and that was, I'm watching this movie, and for the first 2 hours, I'm like, this is gonna be the greatest Batman movie of all time. I love this. And it's people going into it. I've been reading like this is such a grounded movie. It's not. It's not grounded
really
at all.
not.
It's
It's
just
not.
the most comic booky movie since like the 1989 Batman. Because you're talking about Batman walking through the cops and stuff like that's right out of like comics and stuff.
Yeah.
The case, or not the case, but the story plot about his parents might be a little crooked. That comes right out of a comic. I think
Yeah.
it's a Snyder one, but I'm thinking that's what it came out of. The Riddler, I loved. We kind of mess up because the first scene is actually the Riddler. It's not Batman, and it's
yeah,
the
you're
Riddler
right.
committing his first crime,
Yeah,
and that it's so creepy.
It is.
I love that scene, and it's like you could tell that he's like probably never killed anyone because he's just like.
Yeah, he like freaks out.
Yeah. I love that because it made him look like a real serial killer, and like they were going for that. Like a lot of their inspiration was Seven and Zodiac and stuff, and
Nice.
you could totally see that in the tone of the movie and everything.
The only thing about that scene.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Jared, go ahead.
Dano's final like little monologue. It was so Seven. He's like, "Don't you see the brilliance of what I've done?"
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Detective.
The only thing about that scene, the opening scene that I don't like, is again kind of the style over substance thing where he's like standing right behind him, and it's not like, I think it would have been cooler if he's like hiding around the corner, like sweating or something, like you're talking about, like when he kills him, where he's like doesn't know what he's doing. But it's so like theatrical, I guess, to have him just like hovering behind him a little bit.
I feel like
it was cool because
We were in
it was like a horror movie almost, like
Yeah,
like a horror reveal, like they would reveal like Jason or something like that. He would just be standing there.
Well, and also
It
they
was
like
so funny. Oh, go ahead.
whenever they get to the point where he actually starts attacking you, you be able to hear his breathing. Like he's just like almost hyperventilating. He's like, so it's like I kind of imagine him like being around that corner. Then that's when he popped out and he's just sitting there like trying to amp himself up for like I got to walk forward and beat this guy. That's kind of how I
Okay.
took it.
Okay.
That opening totally fooled me. I was like, that tiny ninja killed him. And I was like, oh, that's his son.
Are you serious?
I was like, that tiny ninja stabbed him.
He has a future.
Oh man, Drew, that's funny.
Going on to the stuff I loved, like you guys said, this was the best Gordian by far. He's just like, the tone was perfect that he brought to Gordon. It just like Jared said, he just jumped out from like a cartoon or something like that. Catwoman surprised me. I didn't think I was gonna like Catwoman, but I think they played it perfectly. That she was on there the amount she needed to be. They didn't like overdo it with her or anything. I do like Alex was saying when they were spying in that club and he's like talking to her. I thought that was like really cool. Batman as a detective, like Jared was saying, I love that because we've never gotten that. I don't care what anyone says. Even the Nolan Batman, his stuff is like so weird that you can't figure out like what he like.
He's got a wall of iPhones that he sees everyone through.
Yeah, and then the
bullet scene.
Yeah.
There's one scene in Begins, again, why Begins is the best Batman movie. Where he's looking in those stuffed animals in that apartment for the drugs, and then the Scarecrow comes in. I feel like that's the only detective we get in all of Nolan really.
Yeah. Nolan's Batman is more like like Jared was talking about the Justice League Batman, where he just like knows everything and he's like super smart. But this was like a case. The first part of this movie is really like a procedural like cop or detective story, and that was really cool. Like I said, the Batmobile reveal I thought was really cool because it just sounds like so like evil and angry, and it's like, oh crap. I did like the fight scenes where he fought in the Iceberg Lounge. They were pretty cool. They kind of reminded me of like the Arkham games, that kind of style of fighting, where it's like he's chaining off of like each fighter.
Yeah.
I think the bat suit too kind of comes off from the Arkham too. I think that's the coolest Batarang that we've ever gotten. It looks the best. Even though we didn't get to see him throw it, but it's the best looking Batarang. What else? The music we talked about. Like I said, they played that one song 2 times and they shouldn't have. But like Michael was saying, this needs a trim. This movie needs a trim. The walking scene that you guys were talking about, I liked the first time. Like you said, they did it too many times, but the first time was really cool because it showed Batman as like a force of nature. Like we talk about kind of like Joker as a force of nature in The Dark Knight. On this one, Batman just like brutally beats up these guys, and he's like, this is the first time we've seen Batman as a force of nature, and I really like that scene. And I did like the narration. I thought that was really cool, like you guys were saying too. So all that stuff is cool for like 2 hours. And then you get to the last hour, and this movie just like falls apart. It's crazy. It's just like, what the heck? So Batman for this whole movie is a detective, and we're thinking he's smart. He's like so stupid at the end. Like the whole Spanish thing. It's like, oh my goodness, the Penguin has to tell you.
I forgot about that.
Like, oh yes, of course, yeah.
And then like the also at the end where the cop is like talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a carpet scraper," and Batman's like, "What?"
I thought it was a spatula.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, that's for carpet." When I was in the theater,
nice.
And Batman like totally misses. Maybe he's so rich that he doesn't know what a carpet scraper is. I don't know.
You should have came to me.
Yeah.
I totally agree that with Thomas. That Alfred wasn't like he wasn't great, but I did like how he did kind of help him with the riddles and use kind of his capable. Yeah, he kind of used that like spy training he has, and we see that in that one, so that was kind of cool.
Well, I like the cufflink scene. That's a very Alfred thing to do. Like I like that, but there needed to be more of like him being an adoptive father to Bruce, I think, because essentially that's what he is, and there's that through the whole thing is like, you're not my real dad type stuff. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Alfred is like Bruce's like one thread to humanity in a way, where it's like, you know, he's that's why I think they nailed the Nolan is their relationship. I completely believe. And
not the last part.
Oh yeah, I do hate that part. But that's not their relationship. That's just anyway. I guess it is actually. Yeah, Bruce is a douchebag in that scene. Anyway, but like, it's almost like you're saying, like he's like the guiding father. He's the guy that redirects and keeps Bruce like morally, I feel like, you know, centered. And in this, it's like we just didn't get any of that. Bruce is just kind of overly emo and just overly, you know. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna have Bruce be overly emo and angry and mentally messed up, have Alfred, you know, trying to pull him back into the light a little bit, you know. But anyway,
I like our audience. Like when he was being all mean to Alfred, they're like, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't speak to him that way.
Like I saw some, I guess, interviews before, and they were talking like this is the most damaged Bruce Wayne or Batman there is, but I didn't really get that from the movie. He just seemed more sad than like damaged and like insane. Because I know like Alex wants an insane Batman, and I totally didn't get that from this one. Did you?
No.
I did like how they had a mate because it reminded me of the '60s Batman where they had the ant. So I thought that was kind of cute. But going back to just this movie collapsing at the end. That scene, I agree with everyone. The scene with him and Riddler is probably my favorite scene. Especially because Riddler is like one of my favorite villains. And his biggest weakness in the Batman comics is that he can't figure out who Batman is. So at the end, when they're talking to him, like, oh shoot, he knows who he is. They're going to kind of ruin that. But then he goes and it says that thing about, oh, Bruce got away from us. and Batman just like gives him that look, like he doesn't know who I
am. He's like, "You're not as smart as I thought you were."
Yeah. I thought that was so perfect, and I love that, and it should have just ended there. But this movie keeps going, and it's got that stupid bomb plot that comes out of like. That's the worst part of Batman, like movies or comics. It's just like so goofy. It's like, and like Thomas was saying, Batman's a force of nature in the beginning of this movie, but he gets taken out by like guys with shotguns, and he needs Catwoman.
Not just shotguns, but an old-timey double-barrel shotgun.
Yeah, and he needs
when he was taking AK-47s point blank.
Yeah, true.
He needs Catwoman to save him, which is fine because Catwoman does that every once in a while. But then she gets in trouble and she needs someone to save her. And it's like, come on, guys.
I like when he takes the adrenaline and he's like punching that dude, and they're like, it's like the Christmas story. Get off him, kid. And he's like, you're gonna kill him.
See, but in the trailer, kind of like what Joe's talking about his mental state. In the trailer, that looked like that Bruce is crazy, and that's what I was excited for. Instead, it's just an adrenaline shot. I was like, man, God.
Well, everyone thinks it's Venom, which is the stuff that Bane takes to get buff. So they're everyone thinks they're setting that up. So
interesting.
That'd be interesting if he like gets addicted to Venom in the next one, maybe.
Nope.
Just get the buff Batman.
But yeah, the ending I absolutely hated. I hated like the leading. There's this part where you're talking about where he gets the mayor or the person running for mayor out of that like rubble. There's clearly another kid going, help me, and they just leave him. They just take. I got the important person.
Not his turn.
That's something I was going to say too. Is like this is what's so annoying about some of these things. Where like again, you know, we're all kind of Nolan fanboys on this podcast, but like his movies, well, with the exception of the last one, are like awesome because. It's just things don't seem super convenient where it's like he lifts up this rubble well also there's like 12 people trying to lift this rubble, but then just because he's Batman he can do it and they can't, and then he shoves it aside and oh look who's there, it's all the people that he's come across throughout the movie. There's the mayor lady, there's the little kid who his dad died. Oh, isn't this neat? They all just happen to be there. God, I hate that. That's it.
Were you gonna say something, Jordan?
No, it wasn't important. I was just gonna say he stares at that kid a little too much in that movie.
Yeah, it's so convenient. Like it's so stupid.
Well, okay, and the one like I was fine with the writing, I guess. Like everybody delivered their lines pretty well. But the one line that just stuck out like a sore thumb that they never brought up again, was never addressed again, ever, was like when Catwoman was like, it's just a bunch of white privileged men. And it was never addressed ever again. I'm just like...
Yeah, we talked about that with my friend Ari when I took him home after the movie, because he was like, they already established the fact, you know, they're having a woman run for mayor. She's a woman of color running for mayor. You've already set this up to like, then try and preach it in your movie, like it was like we understand, already, we get it.
What could maybe be cool is that, you know, I'm fine with them taking modern things and incorporating it and changing the characters a little bit, like where maybe she is someone who believes this, but she never it's not like that's her mission. Yeah. The whole movie, it's not like she's like, I gotta take down the patriarchy and all this kind of stuff. It's like she just throws it in there. It's like that was so.
Yeah, it just brought you out of the movie very much when that line came out. You're like, oh, I'm in a theater. I'm not in Batman right now.
Well, and then she proceeds to only like be mad at her dad, and that was it. And then she just helps out Bruce because she likes him. It was so jarring. I'm like, that line did not fit at all in this dialogue.
I think there's another thing that going along with that where they kind of try to put politics into it is like the Riddler. His community is kind of a bunch of conspiracy theorists. So they're kind of going with like the January 6th thing or whatever. But it's dumb because they turn out to be right. everyone in Gotham is corrupt.
Every single guy that he took out was like a bottom of the barrel, like grubby, like politician that should have been in office.
So that message just kind of like doesn't make any sense. But going back to the end, I just got a little more. It's like when Michael said that part that he doesn't like where they're cleaning up and he's like a hero. You can totally see Superman just flying in and being there, like, because everyone say like, "Oh, Superman wouldn't fit into this grounded universe." He would totally be at the end helping everyone, helping stuff like that. So I don't get that. And then the very last scene that no one's touched on yet was that Joker scene. And
oh God,
I was thinking about that while you were talking.
Yeah, it just didn't work for me for some reason.
At first, I thought it was Two-Face because I was like,
that's what we thought. That's what we thought.
Would be cool. And he had like the hair that kind of looks like that's all crazy. I was like, oh, okay, cool, Two-Face. They're gonna be friends, which they kind of team up sometimes in the comics. And then I was like, oh shoot, he said clown. I was like, no,
Yeah, the only way to progress I see with this is like if they make him the second movie or the villain in the second movie, that's terrible. Terrible idea. You're trying to it's like already not only trying to compete with The Dark Knight, terrible idea to begin with, but like have some like the way he was introduced was also terrible as well. Like having so Batman Begins like the card, you're like, oh, we all get it. It's not like this weird CW show cameo that next season we're getting this guy. But
it's totally a CW cameo.
Like it was so out of place. But like what I hope they do with this, because Matt Reeves came out the other day and said he doesn't know if the Joker's going to be in the second one or not. I want Joker to be, if they're going to do it, I wouldn't mind if he was like behind kind of most of the villains and kind of like a leader, not in like a mob leadership role, but like if in the third one you realize he's been orchestrating a lot of stuff, like planting things and messing with people in certain scenarios like that, and making the trilogy villain or something like that. But I really hope they don't put him in the second one. Be real sad.
And you just took all the words out of my mouth that I was going to say about how that Begins is so cool because they have that card.
Yeah.
It's already building up that icon in your mind. It's not like seeing, who's the actor going to play him? And then and then with the CW thing, it's like, because I mostly like this movie. I do.
Yeah, me too.
But then that moment, it just totally feels like, and the Flash.
Because they're like laughing together.
Yeah, it's bad.
It just reminds me of Jim Carrey and Two-Face. Who played Two-Face in that one?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, it just reminds me of those two in that movie. I hate that movie. That's my least favorite.
Wait, you're making that sound like a negative.
That's my least favorite Batman movie.
Well, okay, so for me, because I thought the same thing, Jared, because his hair was kind of messed up, his face seemed to be kind of messed up.
Kind of messed up.
Yeah, that's
I was like, oh, sweet, it's gonna be Harvey Dent, who was like maybe like this not disgraced politician, but he's like a good politician that got burned by the acid, and that's why him and Riddler team up, is because he actually is a good person, or not a good person, but a just person, because he's always about justice. But for me, like, okay, the Joker, he is the most popular villain for Batman. The thing is, right now in like the cinematic thing, like universes, he's overplayed. There needs to be a break. Like he needs to be I think what Alex said, or maybe Michael, the trilogy villain. He needs to be the last villain they bring out. Like he is the one behind the scenes calling the shots, the one making up all this chaos and like manipulating everything. Like he needs to be the big baddie. You can't just throw him out the second time and have it like, oh yeah, cool, awesome, he's back. It's like having Doomsday in the freaking Batman versus Superman movie.
Literally, like, the second movie that Superman's in, they bring the guy that kills him.
So the first movie Batman's in, and they like bring out the big baddie. It's like, come on, it's supposed to be Superman v Batman.
I hate how filmmakers and like studios are like, if they don't see those most popular characters, they're not going to see the movie. It's like we love all the characters.
It's like
he is the best, but we're gonna watch it. Like,
it's like look at Guardians of the Galaxy. A bunch of unknowns that James Gunn made like everyone's favorite characters. You can do it, just put a little effort. Or like
But if
Try.
they put Calendar Man in there, fans would have flipped out. Like, you don't need the Joker.
I want Clayface. I've always wanted
if they
Clayface.
Clayface would be awesome.
Yeah,
would
we
be
need
awesome.
Clayface because
I
we
don't know
haven't
how they
seen
do that
Clayface
in a
yet.
grounded world.
I also do
but-
want a Mr. Freeze. I want a Mr. Freeze.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
Oh,
Oh
Mr. Freeze.
yes.
That'd be
Well, like
pretty
Mr. Freeze
cool.
is like,
Oh.
Ah!
well,
Cool.
like Mr. Freeze is like one of my favorite villains from the comics. I think he's just cool. I love Mr. Freeze, but we never had like a good interpretation of him in the live action ever. I think
What are you talking?
It was fine.
Ice to meet you. Yes.
Maybe
I loved the animated series, Mr.
Yeah.
Freeze, especially the
Yeah.
Sub-Zero movie. That was so cool, but we just haven't had that complex of a Mr. Freeze in a while, and that would have been so cool if it was him.
it's a little cold towards Arnold Thomas.
I know. Yeah. I think he's great.
Okay.
Why don't we put this discussion on ice? So moving on, and I have a
Tell me
little
now.
game.
Wait, I thought you were gonna do a last thoughts. Can I do my last thoughts?
Oh yeah, go ahead and do your last.
I've been making notes this whole time of things you guys are saying. So
Okay. Hour number 3.
Round 2. Let's go.
this is I'm gonna run through these real quick. I did mention the suit. I think it's the best suit. Catwoman. That is something I forgot to mention. She was the thing that we had talked about that I was most worried about. Her
Yeah.
and like Bruce. Their interpretation, but I think Catwoman was actually like I don't think I had any problems with her except for that stupid line and the bike chase scene.
Mhm.
And even I liked the shot. I actually liked the shot of him like watching her go in the rear view
Yeah, I like
or the
that.
side mirror.
That
Yeah.
should have been it.
That would have been cool, but like this, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like I said, I think the monologue is really good, but I don't really like monologues in movies. Typically, it's like no one talks like that. Nobody talks like that.
Batman does.
And who are you talking
I
to?
do all the time.
Who are you talking to who's Bruce talking to when he's saying all that? It means he's talking to the audience, which brings me out of the movie. It breaks the wall. So
Remember, he writes all this stuff down when
that
he
is
goes
true.
back
Oh,
home.
he actually did do that. You're right. That's actually not bad.
He's journaling.
Okay. Because I remember
emphatically.
thinking at the beginning of the movie, I was like, this is stupid. And then he was journaling. That's a little bit better. But I think that you could even have like a reporter saying something like that, and that could be cool too, like it being in the
Batman, he
newspaper.
is the shadows.
Batman. Anyway, and then the song does the same thing for me in the movie where it takes me out. That's why I think Michael's idea of making it an orchestral version of that song would have been perfect. I think that would have been really cool. One thing I really liked about the length is that the 3 hours built up to the excitement, because I'm with Jared. Like, I like Detective Batman a lot, but I also do like action Batman. But I tend to like action Batman where he's in the shadows and all that kind of stuff. But I think that the length of this movie really built up to him going to where everyone was gathered. And then it was like, it really made me excited. Like, oh, here we go. This is Batman. This is Batman. He starts jumping out of the mist and everything. I don't think the action lived up to it, especially with him doing stupid things like cutting that cord and all that stuff. But I think the build up was really good. I talked about Alfred. One thing that Thomas was talking about Bruce, and you did make me think about it more, where it's like, so think about real quick of Christian Bale's Bruce. Christian Bale's Bruce feels competent.
Mhm.
Very competent. It's like, he's getting up, he's doing push-ups early in the morning. Like, he just seems like someone who has discipline and someone who has, contingency plans. He has what he needs to do, and he will do it. He's disciplined. And this Bruce doesn't strike me that way at all. I'm like, I don't believe that this Bruce could pull off being Batman.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Thomas made me kind of realize that talking about him, whereas like Christian Bale does. Like, he's a guy that gets things done. This one doesn't, to me. Riddler. Oh yeah, the Riddler scene about how he convinced himself. I love that he's been ingraining this reality of what he thinks is true into his head for so long. That's what happens with people who isolate themselves that much, and they create these realities where he's like, Batman and I are of course of the same mind. And so seeing his mental break after realizing that they're not, it was so good. Like Thomas talked about how that his words are like, yeah, he's in denial at that point, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that the last thing I have. Oh yeah, I already talked about that too. So that's all. Sorry.
Cool. I was gonna add great Batman movie, terrible Batman ending. That's how I feel.